Hello, 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 and welcome to another episode of the Fantasy Wildcard Devy Show. My name is Jack. I am here as always with my fabulous co-host Phil. And for our watchers and listeners, Phil is one whole year older than he was in our latest episode. Happy birthday, mate, and how are you doing?
Yeah, thanks, man. Yeah, really well, thank you. Birthday was on Sunday, which was a wonderful day to celebrate your birthday because the sun was shining here in Hull. But more importantly, the NFL draft finished on the Saturday, which meant I was in two separate rookie drafts that started up on that Sunday morning. So I got to dive straight into the rookie goodness, straight into drafting and picking some of these players that me and you talked about for like the last year and a half, 2 years. So yeah, exciting times, man. How are you getting on?
Yeah, I am good. It is always good to see your face and chat ball with you, as you know, but it is extra good to see you and have some light relief after a fully concentrated day helping my toddler learn how to use the potty. So I am not personally in any rookie drafts. So I haven't had that distraction yet, but I believe you've been in a like combined rookie and Devy draft, so you've been able to pick up some of these players we've been talking about and some of the players we are going to be talking about.
Yeah, so that one finished yesterday. It's a really interesting setup. It's the only league I'm in where the startup was all combined in one draft as well. And being the Devy guy, I got a little bit excited last year. And there was a taxi squad space for up to 6 players that you could carry as Devy assets, but you could draft more if you wanted to. But obviously they've got to sit on your regular roster. So I got all excitable and took all these Devy names. And I've left myself with what I call a studs and scrubs type build in terms of where we started. So we've got talent at each position on the NFL side of the ball. But I took that many Devy guys. I've not got much of a deep bench that can't really withstand injuries. So it was a fun experiment. I'm delighted with the talent that I've got this year, and I've got a big batch of players all going to drop across 26, 27. So my plan this year is ride it out. This year might be a little bit ugly. I'm not expecting to win. In fact, I'm not expecting to do very well at all, but there is a wealth of incoming talent. So I managed to pick up Jordan Tyson. I've got my first Jordan Tyson share, which feels really, really good. I also added Nick Marsh in the final round, which again, I was really surprised he was there at that point. And then a couple of rookies as well that slipped through the cracks. You can never have enough potential starting quarterbacks, so I picked up a Tyler Shaw share. And then Ty Felton, my guy. He was sitting there staring at me in the third. So I thought, right, well, what I do need is I need someone who, if I hit any injuries this year, I still need to be able to set a starting lineup. So, take a rookie and one that I liked. So it's good fun. It's good fun. I'm really looking forward to next year now when the team will add in one fell swoop. It'll add Jordan Tyson, Carnell Tate, and Kevin Concepcion. That's 3 kind of would you dare say, kind of top 5 in that incoming class as it projects at the moment. So that'll be a nice shot in the arm for that team.
Very nice. Very nice. This is the league that Phil uses to make sure that he's got an even spread of every Devy prospect going, so that he can say that he was ahead of the curve with every one of them.
That's it. You've got me. Rattled me.
That's it. Okay, we will move on to our college football catch up. Our new segment that we do, or we try to do each episode. Now, we'll be honest, there's not much news going on in college football. There's lots of practices and rumors around camps and position battles, but we haven't really learned much new. This week, we've heard a lot of focus on the NFL draft, which is fair enough. I think we've both enjoyed that, and most of our watchers and listeners probably were doing the same. So there's one bit of news that we thought we would mention, because there's a former 5-star wide receiver who has entered the portal and has now committed to Colorado, and that's Hakeem Williams, who has left Florida State most recently, I believe.
Yes, he has. He has left Florida State and he's gone to go join Deion Sanders in a very vacated wide receiver room, because Colorado weirdly had more wide receivers drafted in this NFL draft than any other school. But obviously, there's some freed up targets. Travis Hunter, Jonte Wester, and Jimmy Horn have all moved on to NFL rosters. So yeah, this is an interesting one because, to be quite honest, yes, he was a 5-star, and lots of people will have him on Devy rosters based on him having been a 5-star. But let's be honest, Jack. So far, he has shown us absolutely nothing. And it was interesting to me because I caught wind of some of the Campus to Canton guys talking on X earlier on today, describing him as an off-the-charts athlete, one of the best athletes they've ever graded coming out of high school and into the collegiate ranks. But that was also coupled with one of the worst ever individual scores they've given to a wide receiver prospect for wide receiver-based traits. So I suppose the question is whether we think there's anything there that Dion can mould and kind of, dare I say it at this point, salvage.
Yeah, I'm not investing, let's put it that way, in any Hakeem Williams shares. I don't think this move does much because I don't believe that he's going to be a superstar wide receiver. It does give Hakeem Williams a little bit of a boost. He's going to be in the spotlight because he's going to be at Colorado, and the spotlight is not shining any brighter anywhere else than Colorado at the moment. And as you say, Deion Sanders is still there, and he will be trying to hone a better draft pick position for his next quarterback than he has done for Shedeur. But the less said about that, the better. We won't rant too much or victory lap that one too much longer.
Yeah, I remember a very smart man once saying, get out now before you're left holding the trash. I don't know who that guy is though, Jack.
No idea. No idea who that could be.
No, so yeah, I suppose like in the lack of college football news, there was one thing that dropped, and the very well respected Dane Brugler, writer for The Athletic, NFL draft kind of guru and scouting guru, dropped a way too early 2026 NFL mock draft, and it made for interesting reading, Jack. And I just thought, in the lack of news for us to really discuss, maybe we could have a little bit of a look at some of the names that made the cut, missed out, and look at the impact of that for our Devy players and just see if there's any kind of talking points that stand out. So obviously, business first, we'll start by discussing the quarterbacks. 4 quarterbacks made the cut. Number 1 overall was Arch Manning. And obviously, we've spoken at length about whether or not we actually think he's a 2026 candidate. I was very happy to see the, again, very well-respected Lancia line fanning flames on social media earlier and telling people, hold fire, there's no reason for him to come out in 2026. And I love it when really, really bright people like Lance start kind of echoing something we've been saying for quite a long while. That always makes you feel pretty good. But 4 quarterbacks did make the cut. There was Arch Manning. After him at number 2 was Lenoris Sellers. Number 5, Drew Aller at Penn State. And then number 16, so midpoint of the first round, Garrett Nussmeier was selected. So tell me about the 4 names that have been selected, Jack, and what you think of their Devy outlook heading into the season.
Sure. Yeah. So quickly on Arch Manning, like you say, we fully expect him to return to school in 2026 and have at least 2 full years as a starter at Texas. Whether things go really well or really badly, I don't think I don't think they will go really badly. But regardless of kind of how Texas do over the next season, I think Arch Manning will probably go back. That's something we've heard has kind of been the plan. And that's not just kind of rumors from ideas that we've had. It's what the family have been saying. It's what his dad, what his granddad have been suggesting. And, both his family heirloom quarterbacks in Peyton and Eli started for 3 full years in college before they went to the NFL. So Arch Manning would be the first quarterback taken based on kind of our rankings and our thoughts on the guy, but we've seen very little of him. We've seen him start 2 games and not throw that many passes. So much more to come from Arch Manning, and he would be my number 1 quarterback in this class, but I don't think he will be in it. So that leads us straight on to Lenora Sellers, and someone who I am delighted to see mocked to go this high. I think someone who has gone slightly under the radar, certainly until the latter end of last season when the hype started to pick up for him as his performance has improved too. Let's be honest, it wasn't just a stroke of luck that he was hitting the headlines. He was playing really well, and South Carolina were playing pretty good football towards the end of last season. I'm very excited to see that recognition come. We've kind of been on that hype train for a little bit of time again. Someone who I absolutely adore, dual threat running quarterback, someone who is still refining the passing side of his game, but who isn't at college. And I think he could easily be the number one quarterback taken in this class.
Yeah, absolutely. So then there was Drew Aller at 5. Drew Aller obviously made the decision to go back to Penn State and run it back. They're going to have a serious crack at a national championship this year and do their level best. Obviously, that offense without Tyler Warren will lean heavily on the run game, which begs the question what he's got left to show and what he can really do to improve his stock. But yeah, tell me what you think of Drew Aller.
Yeah, someone who I think I heard the odds, he's kind of odds on as the favorite quarterback to be taken number one overall next draft, which obviously this mock draft doesn't agree with. I think he's someone he's kind of got to that because his reputation is as a well-rounded, polished quarterback, but we've spoken at length that he really hasn't shown us that he's polished in quite a lot of areas. I think he is an all-round quarterback. I think he is a really prototypical NFL quarterback in what he can do, but we haven't seen that consistently or in a well-rounded enough way that would garner him top 5 pick right now. So it could happen, but I wouldn't be putting my house on it.
No, absolutely. And then the final one to make the cut at 16 was Garrett Nussmeier. Obviously, highly productive pocket passer in the SEC. You've got limited rushing upside, which is probably why he's the last of the 4 to go, given the modern NFL. And I would dare say that right now, yeah, I can absolutely see him being a first-round dynasty quarterback next year. But I can also agree, because of the lack of rushing, that he would be the last out of that group to maybe make it into the first round. So that's fair?
Certainly from a fantasy point of view, yes. I think if all of those guys got first round NFL draft capital, Nussmeier's probably being taken last without knowing landing spot. Yeah, no rushing upside at all with Nussmeier. Gunslinger though, so if he's behind a good offensive line, he's got time to throw, then he's going to put up some big numbers. So that's the hope, but absolutely no guarantees that he gets first round draft capital.
So one of the biggest things for me then when I looked at this was we in the Devy community certainly have been very, very high on this next crop of quarterbacks. There's a lot of names that maybe haven't always hit the heights. But there were several names that I thought deserved a mention that are certainly buzzing in college football and Devy circles. And I suppose it just begs the question, right? When Cade Klubnik's missing, Sam Levitt from Arizona State, John Mattia now at Oklahoma, Carson Beck, who last year was potentially being drafted in Devy first round, maybe even the 101 overall, because we were expecting him to be a potential 2025 top quarterback. And I certainly, I'm not completely out on Carson Beck, given that he is going to Miami, the perfect place to be a reclamation project and try and have that bounce back season. But yeah, just really surprised, particularly with Cade Klubnik. You know my thoughts on Cade. And it just makes me wonder, as Devy players, are we too high on these quarterbacks and the NFL lower on them? Where do you think that kind of balance is right now?
For Cade Klubnik in particular, it feels like that sophomore year has really impacted how he's being evaluated, whereas last season actually was a real bounce back. And I think I think Cade Klubnik is the riser in this group. I think he's someone who, as well as starting to play a little bit better, like get better results. Sorry, let's put it that way. As well as getting better results and putting Clemson back on a more positive footing, Klubnik has actually shown us that he's grown and developed, and he's worked on the areas that we wanted to see him work on. So his trajectory is certainly more upward than maybe he's someone who could force his way into the first round without me having to push too hard in terms of my thinking on him. I think he's someone who could easily make his way up, and if he does, he could go as high as a top 3 pick, because he has shown us a bit more well-roundedness than I think Drew Aller has. Yeah. So as long as he continues his trajectory, or even just plateaus, he's reached that stage of his development where he's just fine-tuning a few things, that would be great. And I really do think that he's kind of slid, if we say slid, in this mock draft. And I don't think we are too high on Cade Klubnik. Sam Levitt, someone who I also really like, but we haven't seen too much of. So the hype, maybe your question is true for Sam Levitt. Maybe we are too high on him because we're thinking about his ceiling. I certainly think about Sam Levitt as his ceiling and not where his floor might be.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I think that argument is definitely fair for Sam. John Mateer, you mentioned, I mean, there's so much unknown about this guy. So he's a college fantasy football dream from last season. And now obviously he's moving to Oklahoma following Arbuckle. There's so many variances in his season. So I wouldn't be surprised if John Mateer, unless this season goes incredibly, which, I mean, Oklahoma have a tough SEC schedule, so I'm not sure it will. He might be someone who returns for another season and goes in that 27 class.
That's it. Yeah, I think that's a great point. So moving on to running backs. The interesting thing here is there is absolutely no surprises, and I think Dane's mock very much mirrors the way the NFL views running backs. He has one running back going. He has Jeremiah Love going 14th overall. Outside of that, there is no other running back. So no mention of Nick Singleton. But I'm not worried about that. Jeremiah Love, excuse me, I was going to say Jeremiah Smith. Jeremiah Love gets his flowers for being one of the real blue chip skill position players, or potential blue chip skill position players, in a draft that appears at the moment to be lacking them. But then you look, okay, do you panic that Nick Singleton's not there? No, not at all. I'm very much backing on him as a Devy asset. I think now is the right time to be in on him. And the reason I'm not worried is this is an NFL mock, not a fantasy mock. It's not a dynasty mock. It's not a Devy mock. It is an NFL mock draft. And you've just seen Quinshon Judkins, Travion Henderson, RJ Harvey, your boy, all go in the second round. So yeah, it certainly doesn't make me worry about Nick Singleton's prospects. For me, he's still a first round potential dynasty pick next year.
Yeah, and we only had 2 go in the first round of the NFL draft this year. We had, Ashton Junty, who, is in a sphere of his own compared to our Devy running backs that we've looked at over the last 2 years, and Amarian Hampton, who has a very particular skill set, and he's gone to Jim Harbaugh's Chargers, John Harbaugh's Chargers, and I'm not worried. There'll be round 2 capital, round 3 capital is absolutely fine for running backs. So Devy wise, not too much of a problem, and lots of opportunity for guys to rise into that. Like you say, RJ Harvey was on nobody's radar apart from this guy a couple of years ago, and now he is suddenly a back end of the first round rookie pick. You're 111, 112. Absolutely. If you won your league last season and you get to pick up a starting running back in RJ Harvey at the 112. You are absolutely laughing.
That's it. And then finally, moving on to receivers, this one to me, listen, I respect the hell out of Dan Brugler. This was the real surprise to me. 2 wide receivers. Now, what that does is it reflects definitely the Devy community is feeling on the high-end talent in this 2026 receiver class to date and right now. But I was very surprised by one of the 2 that was chosen. And it just felt a little bit, I don't want to say lazy. It felt more like putting established names out there on people's radar rather than really digging at the back end and doing the work. So the first one's Kyle Tate at 13. I've got no problem with that. We've talked about just how Emeka Egbuka handled the entire process. If Kyle Tate decides he's going to come out in 2026, he'll come out as that same high floor, polished prospect. How high the ceiling is, question for another time. But yeah, no issues with that. The one that really surprised me was Evan Stewart going at number 31. And for the purposes of this mock draft, the draft order was set by reverse Super Bowl odds. So that was to my Baltimore Ravens. Maybe that's why it wrangled me a little bit more. But Evan Stewart at 31, are we still that confident that going into his 4th season at Oregon, he can put it all together? I know you were so high on him a year or so ago, Jack, so I'll let you take this one.
Yeah, well, first I'll comment on the only two wide receivers in the mock draft. I think that what that highlights for us as Devy players is what we know is that there are very few receivers in this class that have a high floor. Like you mentioned it, Kyle Tate has a high floor, and his ceiling we can discuss another time. We have lots of receivers with a high ceiling and low, or at least a perceived low floor in the current crop of 2026 eligible receivers. So that's probably why there's only 2 in this mock draft. Like, how many NFL first rounds have only had 2 wide receivers go in the last 5 years? It won't be many. It's a really valuable position, whether that's your wide receiver 1 or your wide receiver 2 on your NFL team. So I would expect more to go than this. So don't panic about your 26 wide receivers draft capital, because I think it could still happen.
Yeah, absolutely. The one that missed out for me, and I just can't get my head around it because I've fallen in love and I've fallen hard, is Jordan Tyson. Him missing there, like I say, so Evan Stewart to be included, but Jordan Tyson to miss, just made me question where Dame's at in the exercise right now. I'm sure there's good reason for it, but he is one that I definitely see being there.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. Evan Stewart and Jordan Tyson almost had opposite seasons last year, where one rose and developed and grew into a bit of a story, and Jordan Tyson with his pairing with, well, it wasn't just a pairing, it was Cam Scatterbo and Sam Levitt and Jordan Tyson. Whereas Evan Stewart kind of disappeared. He had one really good game against Ohio State, which that's great. If that's the tape that Dame watched, then I can kind of understand it, but that's the only game really where he popped off the screen. Struggled with a few injuries, and I do really like him, but he's certainly slipped in my rankings. I've really missed on how high I was taking him last year.
Yeah, sure. So look, let's move on and get into the real kind of purpose of tonight's show. We are going to look at the freshman running backs. We played heads or tails, and flipped coins to decide how they were divvied up last time. And we are going to dig into our early scouting reports on these incoming freshmen for you now. I will kick us off with the guy that went kind of first in that game, and that was Usman Cromer at Florida State. 5-star recruit. Dominant workhorse back out of Georgia. So he's played a good standard of high school football. And he's posted multiple 1,000-yard seasons at the high school level. A key offensive weapon on his team from his sophomore year forward. So he's got 3 kind of multi-purpose over 1,000-yard seasons. he's a downhill power-centric back. Thrives between the tackles, which is good because, like, sometimes in the high school tip, when you're watching the running backs, the game is they're bigger, faster, stronger. So they send them on sweeps, they send them on tosses, get them outside the tackles and let them go. So to see the fact that Cromer won by pounding it between the tackles was really quite pleasing. Runs with excellent pad level and leverage, often kind of bouncing off first contact, so not going down at that first contact, which is great. He's not got elite top end speed, but he's quick enough to break off chunks, which is what we want from our running backs. You know, Mags and I had the conversation about the knocks on Quinton Judkins last week after people were criticising his long speed for the play in the national championship game. How about we just praise the chunks and not knock people for not being able to see the 75-yarder home? Good kind of one-cut vision, and will play well in zone schemes. The big thing for me is the field vision and contact balance. Like, are really, really pleasing. And the fact that he's already got that tip for running between the tackles bodes well. Limited pass catching production in high school. But again, we've often said you can't knock people for what you've not seen on that tape. It's not to say that he can't do it. He may well get the opportunity. Now he's at Florida State. And for me, in terms of Devy projection, we've just talked about high floors. He's a high floor, solid, potential NFL drafted running back. How high the ceiling is will depend on whether he develops that pass catching upside.
Fair enough. Yeah, so obviously that's for your PPR league. So an even higher floor if you're playing in a standard scoring Devy league, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Your first guy tonight is exciting. He's a name that I was a little bit gutted you got, to be fair. But you're going to talk to us, Jack, about Gideon Davis at Clemson.
Yes, I am. And this was the most exciting running back that I got in this draft. He's gone to Clemson, and I picked him because I have to correct this. It's Gideon Davidson.
Excuse me.
Clemson. That's what I was just double checking. So he is probably the most well-rounded running back that I have looked at from this class. He is 5'11", 202 pounds. He had great production in high school, back-to-back 2,000-yard seasons in his junior and senior years. There's not many guys that can say that. He also averaged over 10 yards a carry across his high school career. In his freshman season, that was even higher. It was 11 yards a carry. That 10 yards a carry is ridiculous. That is super efficient. Now, he didn't play against the most elite competition, but still, 10 yards a carry, that's pretty good. If you can guarantee yourself a first down every time he touches the ball, you're pretty happy. Davidson is a multi-sport athlete. He's played like 4 or 5 different sports in high school. He's got a frame that lends itself really well to being a running back, but also to add a bit more muscle, which I think is encouraging to see. He's not slight by any means, but to have the capacity to add a bit more meat to the bones is quite good. And he's got great instincts both inside and outside. So he can run inside schemes through the tackles. He can run outside schemes. He's got good vision and good patience. I like to think of it, he has like really good pre-gap intelligence. So before the gap opens up, he knows where he's supposed to be going, but he doesn't rush into it either. So he's got good patience, good vision, but doesn't wait too long either. So I know a few years ago, the hype was all around people who had Le'Veon Bell style patience behind the line of scrimmage. This guy is similar, but a little bit more decisive than maybe Le'Veon Bell was or needed to be. So I really like what he does in terms of his keeping his eyes on the field and knowing what he's supposed to be doing with his cuts.
That's a big time comp.
Yeah, I'm not all of his game, but that's certainly that patience and vision.
Yeah.
So he's got really quick feet and good acceleration. He's elusive rather than overly physical. So, that's why putting that muscle on might be helpful. But at the moment, Davidson is someone who's going to make you miss rather than run through you. So if you're trying to tackle him, you've got to make sure you get more than just an arm tackle on him, because he's not going to come down if you just grab him with hands. You've got to get your full body behind that tackle. He has lined up as a receiver in high school, which is always a plus. That's, shows good awareness, the ability to run at least a limited route tree that isn't just dump offs or screens. And he's solid pass catching. Didn't see him drop many, if any, I believe, on the tape. And the good thing is the landing spot at Clemson, the running back room is just a little bit strange at the moment, to be honest. We've got David Eziamume, who I maybe hitched my bandwagon to a little bit early in the offseason last year as a guy. I wasn't proclaiming him to be the RB1 of that class by any means, but someone who I picked up a lot of shares of. But he hasn't really established himself in that room. Sure. Maffa has gone, and Adam Randall is kind of transitioning from wide receiver to running back. So it's an open running back room. There is a chance that there's a real package of plays for Davidson this year, and Dabo loves him. Dabo fully believes that he's the best running back in the class and has believed that for a long time.
Yeah, you're right in what you say. It's a room where he could definitely see touches early, and that's going to be encouraging for his development, and also encouraging if you do decide you're going to take a share, because you don't want to see these guys just sitting on the shelf. You want to see them being productive, which will definitely help the value. Obviously, with these freshman running backs, you don't need to spend high capital on them either. People are going to go for the headline acts first. These are the guys where if you get to your final couple of rounds, that's the perfect time to take these guys. And you're right, he's definitely one that's, I won't say flying under the radar, but maybe he's not the headline act even in this class at the moment. And you could get a very productive player who stands to make you profit early as well if he gets those snaps that we're expecting.
Yeah, and he doesn't have any red flags like being too thin or being too tall or anything like that would put me off taking him in a Devy draft.
Yeah, absolutely. So Gideon Davison's kind of unique selling point is the fact that he might get onto early touches. I'm going to move on then to Acklin Deer, who probably finds himself in the absolute opposite position at Alabama. He is a talented young man. However, as is often the Alabama problem for running backs, he's going to find himself in a backlog where he's going to struggle to get touches. And, whether he bides his time and waits in this modern day with the transfer portal, just waits to be seen. But let's kind of give him his kind of scouting rundown. Acklin Deer went to school Quitman High in Mississippi. And kind of stepped onto the field early. He put up multiple 1,500-yard seasons and was often the kind of main focal point of his offense. His high school didn't pass the ball a lot. He was the weapon. He got the touches. And he's kind of shown consistent production over his time in high school. He technically is really sound. That's the pleasing thing. He is smooth, efficient runner, blocks well, not the most important thing for our Devy shares, and he doesn't waste motion. He's got really, really good footwork in tight spaces. Subtle footwork, low center of gravity. He can make guys miss at close proximity. What he is not is a home run hitter. He is not a big play threat. He's an efficient, technical, savvy running back. He's got sneaky burst, but nothing that's going to run away from people over the over the course of a game. What I really like I said, he's a thinking guy's running back. For me, when you evaluate wide receivers, if you love craft and guile and route running and short area separation, if that's what revs your engine, this is like the running back equivalent. Like, it's all very technical, very sound, but he is not a game breaker with top end speed. He is slightly undersized for a workhorse role. And so that kind of limits his cap, or kind of limits his ceiling long term, I think. He's a technician. I don't ever see him really being more than an RB2 at the next level if he gets there. If he gets out of Alabama's kind of crowded room, he's got a profile that does translate, but not as a lead guy for me, which, listen, he's going to do fine at Alabama if he bides his time. He'll be a very, very productive college running back. If he even gets caught in that logjam and decides he's going to transfer elsewhere, I just wonder about his translatability to a heavy workload at the next level. So whilst I like him, he's great to watch. The technique is really, really sound. As a fantasy prospect, he's one that I will let others helmet scout, and I'll probably dip elsewhere.
Fair enough. How, having not watched any of his tape, how does he compare? Some of the things you said there kind of put a klaxon in my head about Najee Harris, which obviously same school. That chat about being kind of like an RB2 but never an RB1. Can he handle a full workload? Obviously a productive college running back in his final year, Najee, but it hasn't really translated to being a superstar in the NFL. Similar, or am I just?
I think the size profiles are very different.
Okay.
And one of the things that Najee never, or the one big similarity that I will definitely give you is I don't think Najee ever gets enough credit for his good hands. He is a good pass catcher. I think he's an underrated pass catcher, and he certainly did it at Alabama. Ackland Deer does have the same kind of receiving abilities, but the big difference is the size. Najee is a bigger back, whereas Deer's undersized, and for that reason, I worry about his ability to handle a sustained workload. Whereas, Najee did it. He did it at college. He came into the league with a lot of tread on the tires, and I think him being spelled in the league with a Jalen Warren was more about trying to keep him fresh and make the most of the carries that he did get. So yeah, I could understand it from the technique perspective, and the pass catching certainly, but the size profiles make them look very, very different.
That's fair. I completely missed the size profile as you were talking. So yeah, that's the main thing about Najee Harris's profile. So foolish over here to have missed that bit.
Yeah. So we both got a homer pick again. Now, what's quite interesting is there are two running backs in this crop for Ohio State. I'd simply asked you to take the one who was more anointed in terms of stars and ratings and rankings rather than the other. So you're going to talk to us about Anthony Rogers, and maybe in a couple of minutes, if we're doing all right for time, I'll slip in and do a little bit on some work I've done on Bo Jackson, the other Ohio State incoming freshman running back.
Yeah, fair dues. So Turbo Rogers, as he has been quaintly nicknamed, is probably the opposite then of Deer, as you were chatting about someone who doesn't have that home run hitting ability. Anthony Rogers at Ohio State really does. He is 5'8", 195-pound running back, very twitchy, but clearly not the biggest, like I've just said. He is an explosive athlete, which has made him like a really, really good basketball player and a track star in high school. And he's got really good long speed that makes him a threat anytime he can find a crease. So we spoke, you mentioned Quinshon Judkins not taking that play in the national championship to the end zone. He did then take the ball into the end zone on second down of the next series. So not too bad. But this is a guy who could take that home run play all the way. And, he's fast. And if you chase him down, he is elusive. The problem is if you do chase him down and you do hit him, he is going flying. Okay, the contact balance from Anthony Rogers is not great because of his size, because of his twitchiness. You know, when I watch him, it feels like he is fully committed to his speed. Does that make sense? He is like,
Yeah.
you know, you've got those runners who just go flat out, and therefore any kind of touch is going to send them flying.
Yeah.
I think of it in like football terms. You've got that winger going down the wing, and he's rapid and pacey, but he gets the slightest touch from a defender, and he goes maybe sometimes theatrically down. That's kind of what Rogers is like. So he is a threat. He is fast, but he's not got the best contact balance. He does, however, have like an intelligent change of pace, both laterally and north and south. So that's really good trait to have for someone who's looking for that to hit a crease and hit it hard. He can shift left and right, and then he can accelerate downhill, which is great. Seen a lovely spin move on tape, so make sure you, if you can, try and check that out. And yeah, he's not going to bounce off any defenders. So if you hit him, he's probably going to go down. As you like to see with these kind of like speedster running backs, he's got really good hands in the receiving game. So he probably projects currently, in my mind, from very limited huddle tape, as a back you want to get the ball to in space. So counters, toss sweeps, screen plays, and not because he's like you say, the biggest athlete in high school, and therefore we'll just get it to him in space and he'll make something happen. But because that really fits his skill set.
Sure.
Obviously, to do that, you need to be quite reliable in pass protection, especially at a school like Ohio State when they get to the kind of the crunch of their schedule. You need to be able to protect the quarterback to stay on the field, which obviously we say is true in the NFL, but for someone like this, it really is true, because at the moment I don't see him holding up against a defensive end that comes through, or even like a linebacker coming on a disguised blitz. It'd be interesting to see how he predicted. And we've just been talking about how good Trevion Henderson is at picking up those kind of pass protection blitzes, and so this is the complete opposite as far as I am aware so far. And like you said, the other thing for Rogers is that he's not the guy being hyped out of spring camp. It is Bo Jackson, so someone I'm a little bit nervous to invest too much in Devy wise.
Understandable. No, it makes complete sense. We'll come to Bo Jackson really quickly. Obviously, lesser recruited than Anthony Rogers, but Bo Jackson, you know, the name's brilliant for a start. It's going to give all the nostalgic vibes. Jackson is an Ohio State native, strong rushing numbers, but he struggled in high school with injuries. Injuries blighted his recruiting and his projection somewhat. He is a north-south bruiser. He's going to run over you. He is going to run over you. He's going to run through you, and he's going to enjoy it. And he's a solid athlete. Runs with purpose. Doesn't waste steps, doesn't waste movement, doesn't dance unnecessarily. He's getting straight into business. Gap scheme runs where he can build momentum, suit him down to the ground. He's already 6 foot 210, so he's got that prototypical frame. He's not going to need to get in a college weight room to pack weight on. If anything, if he's that big already, they want to limit what he does in the weight room and keep working on that kind of burst. Physical finisher, strong straight line speed. Look, maybe it's a little bit harsh just calling him a between the tackles thumper, but if you look at the guys who've just left Ohio State, he's the Quinshon Judkins as opposed to the Trevion Henderson. He is likely to start right now, from what you're telling me, probably start getting more snaps earlier than Anthony Rogers, perhaps. Obviously, there's still James Peoples in that backfield as well, who we're very high on from a Devy perspective. But it makes him...
And CJ Dawson.
Absolutely. So, but I think he's a solid stash. is a solid stash, perhaps more so from what you're saying then, Anthony Rogers. Yeah. What'll be interesting is whether he has the PPR chops to really be an impact player at the next level.
Yeah, but then you could say the same about Quinshon Judkins when he was at Ohio State. He didn't get that many receiving opportunities, but when he did, they were key downs. So Bo Jackson's the guy I'm looking to draft over Anthony Rogers. Let's put it that way at this point.
Yeah, absolutely. Right, leads me to my final back that I received in our game of heads and tails, and I am absolutely buzzing to talk about Harlan Berry at LSU. Again, he's another back that stayed at home. He's a Louisiana kid. He was absolutely electric. If you want to have fun watching some high school running back film, this was great fun. He's the one that I've come away excited to go away and draft because I can see the translatability in skill set at every level, at college and at the pros. He is electric. So in his high school career, he rushed for over 6,000 yards and over 80 touchdowns. I mean, they are stupid numbers. He dominated at state level with elite speed, and he's a natural track athlete as well. He's got national level times in the 100 meters. So that speed is real and it shows up. He is one. At times, the tape was quite difficult to evaluate because he was just faster than everybody. But he's going to be at the next level as well. It's not an accident. Like, he's going to step up and still be faster than most people playing college ball on a Saturday. Pure burner, rare acceleration. And I think he hits top speed quickly. It doesn't take him long to build up a head of steam. He's there and he's on it. Open space runner. Get him outside the tackles. He's a dangerous receiver out of the backfield. And that is the most appealing thing about the tape. Natural hands, soft hands, runs good routes out of the backfield. They put him in motion a lot and had him receive the ball kind of in motion. And high school defenses just had no clue what to do. They couldn't stop it. He's a home run threat on every single touch, regardless of where it is in the field. And you look at fantasy gold mines, like, we're going to look back in a few years when he's retired and gone, and we're going to put Alvin Kamara in the fantasy football Hall of Fame for running backs because of the skill set, the longevity of career because of how he wins as a receiver, not necessarily needing heavy touches as a runner to contribute massive points to your lineup. And then you just, take 7 or 8 years off that and look at the dynasty RB1 for a lot of people at the moment in Jahmyr Gibbs. It is a translatable skill set. I'm not saying that Harlan Berry is going to go on to be those players, but you can see the traits and the way they win in his game. He's got elite upside as a PPR back. He needs to add some mass. He's lean at the moment. He needs to get in the weight room. But right now, you'd question whether or not he's built for 20 plus touches a game. What I would say is he probably doesn't need them. He can get you the points necessary by being a 10 to 15 touch guy because of what he does in the receiving game and how he can take those picks home. Sometimes kind of felt like it feels weird to ding him, but was he too reliant on speed rather than vision? Look, it won at high school. That's not to say he can't do it at the next level, but I'd love to see that on his tape when we look back in a year to see how these guys are doing. But yeah, he's the one that I've come away from this process wanting.
Excellent. Even just from that, I am also all on board with Harlan Berry. I'll be really interested to see. Obviously, it was quite historical how little LSU ran the ball last season and how quickly they went away from the running game, and Caden Durham was kind of left as a but I'm really good. Why won't
Yeah.
you give me the ball kind of player? So it'll be interesting to see what happens this year and if Harlan Berry can get in the mix. Off the top of my head, I can't claim to know outside of Durham and Berry what else is going on in that room, but it'll be interesting to see if he can force his way onto the field in garbage time games or even as part of a rotation.
Absolutely. Right. Your last guy then. You went to Oregon. Tell us who you're going to talk about.
Yeah, I'm going to talk about Jordan Davison, who is a monster of a back. This is a guy who, if you like a big physical runner, this is the guy for you. So he is 5'11", 228 pounds, big physical back. He's weighed in at kind of closer to 240 at some stages, that's too big. I don't.
That's Ollie Gordon big.
That's Ollie Gordon big, but I don't think he'll play at that kind of weight. I feel like he did have a few injuries, and I think that was probably when he came back from those injuries, and we still needed to kind of get his body back into shape. But he played at Mater Dei, obviously that quite notorious school. He shared a backfield with Nate Frazier, the Georgia running back.
I like that guy. I've heard he's quite good.
Yeah, I'm sure you do. Although not when they're playing Alabama, of course. But he managed to clock up a modest but respectable in shared backfield, 3,500 yards in high school, 50 touchdowns. That's pretty good. Obviously, solid contact balance, as you would hope and expect from a guy this big. He is the opposite of what I was talking about earlier. He is going to run through you. He's not going to try and evade you in the open field. Although he is pretty elusive as someone who weighs and has the stature of this kind of player. He is more of a one-cut runner rather than a dancer in the backfield. He's very decisive and therefore then quite difficult to bring down once he's made his move, which if you are going to be a one-cut runner, I want you to be really decisive. So, he's combining those two things pretty well. He will primarily project as a primary back. If we're looking at, we may be moving away from this in the NFL, but if you're looking at your prototypical 2-down back and then your change of pace guy, he's the 2-down back. He's the guy that you use to pick up chunk yardage, key yardage, probably goal line stuff. None of this is surprising to anyone. You just have to see the size and weight, and this is what you're thinking. But he's good at it. That's what the tape shows you, that he is good at picking up this kind of those key yards, and he can break out. He's not gonna burn you down the field, but he can break away from tackles and pick up 20, 30 yards here and there. The really good thing is that we will probably see Jordan Davison quite early. So from a Devy point of view, this is a guy who you're probably not going to have to draft at all this year if you don't want to. So you can play the waiting game, or you can take him with your last round. I primarily play in 3-round Devy drafts. So if you're in the 3rd round and you haven't got anyone that you're desperate to take, this is a guy that I would then pick up there, because you could drop them or you can cut them from your roster if it doesn't work out, and pick somebody else up on your Devy squad. But a guy that could see the field really early, and therefore his Devy value would increase quickly, especially if he takes that goal line work. Because Oregon's backfield, there's Mackie Hughes, who's transferred in, and Noah Whittington, and that's about it ahead of him on the depth chart. And neither of those guys are typical goal line backs. So if Jordan Davison starts vulturing touchdowns, his value is going to go up pretty quickly, and people are going to get to know who he is pretty early.
Yeah, it's really funny. Like when you were talking, like my mind always goes Alabama at any given opportunity, and everything you were saying made me think Brian Robinson. You look at that kind of grinder type who will find his way onto an NFL roster, maybe as a late day 2, early day 3 guy, but can be productive. Again, dare I say, like, if you're talking ceiling for a prospect who wins that way, a David Montgomery type, he could be the David Montgomery to a Harlan Berry being your Jahmyr Gibbs type. Am I barking up the right tree there?
Yeah, I can see it because he's not. He has more elusiveness and more. He has more than just being a power back, but that is his primary role. But I wouldn't call him a pure power back because he's got a bit more to his game.
Fab. No, makes complete sense. Makes complete sense. Well, there you go. If you had to pick one that you're going to go away and draft in your rookie drafts this offseason, then, or in your supplemental drafts this offseason, where are you going? Where are you putting your money?
Of the three that I've looked at, I'd be going for Gideon Davidson, but I've heard quite a lot about Harlan Berry, and you are tempting me to go and pick him as the first of this group of six.
Yeah. Ironically, I think he's also the name that people know. He's a name that was on radars in this running back crop, which might spike his value slightly. So yeah, you've also got to be kind of careful of leaving it too long. He's the ideal one for me. That if you manage to pick up an additional pick in the mid rounds, I don't think you'll regret spending it there because you run the risk of missing out on him otherwise. So again, depending on how deep your league is, what your board looks like, I think I'd be happy to go mid with him and then maybe wait on some of the others.
Great. We're in lockstep. As per usual.
As always. Right. Okay, so that is running backs in the books. I suppose next we should have some fun and do the wide receivers. So we are going to do our freshman wide receiver lottery. Wide receivers, there are often more wide receivers on your roster than there are players at any other position. Therefore, we're going to up this to 8 wide receivers, Jack. And we've divvied these out so far by playing games. We've just had fun. We've just pratted about and played games and talked ball. And we're going to do exactly the same tonight. So we have had the random wheel of fortune. We have had heads or tails. Tonight, we are going to play rock, paper, scissors. Okay? So the way it'll work is it's first to 4. Every time you win a round, you pick your guy. If it ends up 4-2, you will have picked 4, I'll have picked 2, and I'll get the 2 that are left, and so on and so forth. So 1, 2, 3, shoot.
Absolutely. No other way.
Ready to rock and roll?
Absolutely.
1, 2, 3, shoot.
I can't see your hand.
Farming screen. Okay.
Okay, Phil's got first choice.
So we should have also maybe mentioned the 8 wide receivers that are on the board. So there's Decoria Moore at Oregon, Khalid Lockett at Texas, Tylen Taylor at Georgia, Vernell Brown at Florida, Jerome Miles at Texas A&M, Caleb Cunningham, Ole Miss, one-time Alabama recruit, flipped to Ole Miss, Dallas Wilson at Florida, and Quincy Porter at Ohio State. I can't let you have all the fun and take the homer pick again. I'm going to go to take Quincy Porter at Ohio State. Okay?
Great.
So I'll quickly grab my phone and update our list so we don't look back after this and go, crap, who was taking who? Okay? Ready? Rock, paper, scissors, shoot. So rock, paper, scissors, shoot. Jack takes this one.
Great. Well, I'm going to take the highest ranked receiver in that group and Decorian Moore going to Oregon. He is potentially the only 5-star or the only true 5-star. But I'll let you know if that rings true, having watched his tape.
Okay, so Decorian Moore is off the board. Ready to rock?
Ready.
Rock, paper, scissors, shoot. Boom. Okay. That's another win for me. So I am going to take a guy who is making rave reviews out of spring camp at Florida. One of the 2 Florida guys. I'm going to take Dallas Wilson.
He really is getting some hype. He is getting some hype. I think Florida tweeted something out about how he was their Jeremiah Smith. So, what that's, bit too on the toes for me, but
yeah, that's lofty, isn't it? Let's be honest. Okay, so we are 3 rounds in. Ready for round number 4, Jack?
absolutely.
Rock, paper, scissors, shoot. Go again. Rock, paper, scissors, shoot. 2-all.
Excellent. I'm going to take Caleb Cunningham. I know you don't want to talk about him, so I'll take him off your hands. A really interesting prospect, a really high-profile flip as well, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was a huge win for Lane Kiffin. Obviously, they pushed hard at him. Keelan Russell and Ryan Williams, again, did a lot on the recruiting thing there. But I think the big thing is the vacated targets at Ole Miss, with Trey Harris moving on, the opportunity to see the field early and do what he does best. Like, from what I understand, and you can watch the tape and tell me if I'm wrong, big, physical, direct, straight line runner, in the kind of mold of Trey Harris. So, yeah, watch the tape, tell me if I'm right, but it certainly seems a good scheme fit for him from what I understand.
Fabulous. I look forward to it.
Okay, ready to rock? Rock, paper, scissors, shoot. Jack again.
Got another pick. Okay, I'll take Kalik Lockett from Texas. Obviously going to be a crowded wide receiver room yet again, but someone who is looking to forge their way through it.
Sweet. Okay, so Jack needs one more to see the game home and win. I'm down 3-2. Once again, I've realized that we're making this video and it makes terrible audio content. But we're having a great time. So
yeah, maybe we need to announce what we're choosing at each time. But I think that would be boring too. So
excuse me, you got me there. Right, ready. Rock, paper, scissors, shoot. 3-all. It's going to the wire. Right, I am going to take Jerome Miles this time at Texas A&M. A guy that I don't know much about in the slightest. I've not really seen much of his recruiting journey or how he's ended up at the Aggies. But they obviously are crying out for wide receiver production. They've gambled in the portal as well. Let's see whether this kid can step up to the plate and be the guy that they so badly need.
Mm-hmm.
Right, final round for all the marbles.
It's all on the line.
Rock, paper, scissors, shoot. One more time. Rock, paper, scissors, shoot. Blimey. Rock, paper, scissors, shoot. Oh my goodness. Rock, paper, scissors, shoot.
And Phil takes it.
Okay.
For those not aware what was going on there, if you are listening on audio, that was 3 draws in a row.
Mind games took the victory. So I've got a choice of Tellin Taylor at Georgia or Vernell Brown at Florida. I already have one Florida guy, so I'll take the kid that's gone to Georgia. I'll take Tellin Taylor, which leaves you, Jack, with the other Florida boy, Vernell Brown.
Well, that's convenient because that's who I'd have taken anyway. Cool. So there we go.
So that is it. In terms of this evening, we have looked at the incoming freshman crop of running backs and tried to take you through the tape, where we think we would look in your supplemental drafts coming up this offseason, as well as touching on the 2026 class, so the names that people are going to want to start to pick up and really take notice of. So we have taken a kind of bit more of a look at some of those guys and try to just bring them back to the forefront of your minds. In the meantime, all right, until we meet again in a fortnight to talk wide receivers, you can follow the entire Fantasy Wildcard team on X and YouTube. The Dynasty guys in particular are pumping out some incredible YouTube content at the moment. Obviously, there is the extended Wildcard family with Fantasy Pancake and the amazing Lewis Wood. You can go follow Mags and everything he does with the hot seat. You can follow Jack if you don't already do so at Jack CDC, CDCTT on X. You can follow me at Posh Players FF. But until then, Jack, all right, you take care of yourself, buddy, and I look forward to talking wide receivers with you in 2 weeks' time.
Absolutely. Catch you soon.
Peace.